So, have you ever trained dogs before? Or watched a show on television or anything about dog or animal training? Well, think of dog training for a minute. If you haven't done this before, just imagine it. They found that, if you have a desired behavior and you ask for the behavior and the dog doesn't, there's no reward or no negative consequence, the dog is not necessarily going to repeat the behavior. He's not going to be trainable at all, right? Obviously. You could offer negative consequence, yelling at the dog or telling it no, beating the dog, so to speak, if it doesn't do what you ask for. But then you're not going to get enthusiasm from that dog to do any kind of behavior, and you might actually inspire aggression from that dog and a lot of negative, really bad behaviors, and it ruins the relationship between the person and the handler and the dog, right? So we don't do a bunch of negative reinforcements or punishment training necessarily. We'll call it punishment training, because that's what that is. But we do find, of course, you reward behaviors, give them a treat, or give them some time with their favorite toy, then they want to repeat that behavior. And that is how we train dogs. But what they found where they got the most enthusiasm from that dog was when they took the reward away intermittently. So, in other words, the dog sometimes would get the reward, and sometimes he wouldn't get the reward. Okay? So, you start off, you're training a dog, and you're giving him the reward every time, so it conditions the behavior, and then you start to remove the reward, and he only gets a reward sometimes. All right? What happens is, and I have one of my dog trainer friends here verifying what I'm saying, which is good, because he knows more than I do on that. So what happens in the dog's neurochemistry and minds is it's that anticipation for that reward that causes him to want to enthusiastically do whatever it is you want. And whatever behavior it is you're looking for, he becomes enthusiastic about it. The possibility of getting that toy to play with, that's his high value item, or the possibility of getting his favorite treat, okay? And so that right there is essentially how narcissists, and I say narcissist, I mean cluster B personality disorder individuals. These are your psychopaths, your sociopaths, by slang term, by diagnostic terms, your histrionics, your borderline personality disorder, antisocial personality disorder, or narcissist by definition, okay? So these are that category, cluster B personality disorder. What they do is they train their victims, and the victim being you if you're in a relationship or have been in a relationship with someone like that. They start off with a whole bunch of rewards. They become the person that you've always wanted. They bomb you with love. They bomb you with tons of positive reinforcement. And it causes you to really feel on cloud 9, being reinforced by this person. And then they start the devaluing phase. And the devaluing phase is they start to remove the reward. And it's intermittent, and it's not logical, and there's no rhyme or reason behind it other than they're training you and getting you to obsess over them more and to try to please them and do whatever they say more. You've fallen for this person, they have you, you're getting a lot of validation from this person, and now they start to remove that reward. The reward becomes further and further removed. So it starts off small, where there's some conflict, there's some drama, there's some no contact, or there's some, you know what I mean? But then it goes back to reward, okay? But then the actual reward of receiving their love and their validation becomes further and further spaced out. And that is what happens during the devaluation phase. Now, unlike with dogs, we're talking about sexual chemistry here between yourself and another person. Well, that chemistry really is a chemistry, really is chemicals. Oxytocin, dopamine, to be some of the few chemicals. And those are addictive chemicals. They're actually addictive. So when you're being showered with these addictive chemicals, what happens is your body gets used to that and craves it. And then when they start taking away that reward, you're craving and wanting that dopamine and oxytocin hit from this person. You're very much like a drug addict with this person. And it's this internal, you feel it in your chest and in your insides when you're not getting that validation, that love, that sex, whatever it is that this person gives you as that reward. It's like this cringing feeling inside, and it drives you insane. Okay, that feeling you get and all the efforts you're putting in is what experts call supply. You're supplying the narcissistic ego. Because they can't have normal human relationships, every relationship is a manipulation for getting something out of it. Oftentimes the thing that they get out of it is just supply, meaning getting validation from you. And that happens because you're willing to bend over backwards and sideways and do whatever it takes to try to please them and validate them to get that reward, whatever that reward is, from them. So you become very much like a drug addict. And then they will continue to devalue you and break you down as far as they can break you down until they decide, for whatever reason, that they can't get any more supply out of you, or they find another source. And then they move into phase 3 of that relationship, which is discard. And that's when the relationship breaks up. They discard you, or they force you to break up with them. But it ends up or they outright will push the envelope so far that it'll end. They get like physically abusive is a good example. They'll all of a sudden they will turn to physical abuse, and then you finally say enough's enough and you end it. Okay, and so now the relationship ends. But the problem is you still crave that dopamine and oxytocin hit very much. That you're addicted to this person and the chemical hits that they've been giving you throughout the relationship, starting with a ton of hits during the love bombing phase, ending with intermittent rewards throughout the devaluing phase, which is the longest period. And so, like a drug addict, you've been conditioned now to crave this neurochemical hit from this person, because they've cleverly given you just enough good feelings to go along with all the bad feelings to keep you after them and wanting more. And they might not understand the scientific reasoning behind it, but they do know exactly what they're doing, because they have learned to do this at a very young age in all of their relationships. So that is why you feel like you can't get out of it. When I coach people through these scenarios, and I've done a number of those, I can almost count on every single time when I first advise them what to do, that my client is not going to listen to me, at least not the first time. They'll agree. They'll listen to what I have to say. They will agree 100%. They will leave the coaching call with all the confidence in the world that they're going to end that relationship and never talk to this person again. And then, sure as shit, a week later, we're doing another consultation, and they've been contacting them throughout the week. There's been some sort of drama. They've been arguing over this or that. They had sex once during the week. It's always something. You know what I mean? Because they can't help themselves at first. It's like trying to pull an addict away from their drug of choice. So when I help people break themselves from these relationships, it's very much like breaking an addict from an addictive behaviors towards a substance. Okay, so that's it. That's the end of the video. I just wanted to provide that education for you. If you're trapped in this kind of scenario, or if you know someone who is, share the video, like it, go to my YouTube channel, subscribe, like my page here so you'll get video updates. That's one thing. Besides coaching on all the other relationship issues, that's one thing I'm very passionate about, is helping people get out of these kinds of relationships, because I know how destructive they are. So if you're having a problem, if you need some help, hit me up on private message, and maybe I can help you, even if it's just some initial advice and you end up not necessarily coaching with me, but just to help you, point you in the right direction to get you out of a narcissistic abuse relationship. All right, thanks again.